7.36 is here, and let me tell you, Invoker is a pretty damn strong hero in this patch. Pretty crazy considering I have not seen him in any games apart from the ones I've picked him in. Maybe I'm delusional, or maybe people are just missing something here, but right now Invoker is super strong from my perspective, and I am on a 5-0 win streak with him since the patch change, and while this is only a smallish sample size, the games have been pretty clear in terms of feeling how strong Invoker is in laning and other aspects of the game. So this is why you should be playing Invoker in patch 7.36. Quick heads up for those of you that have watched all the videos in the past and have been subbed for a while. I know there's not been any content in a long time. I did take a little break, but we're back and there's going to be consistent videos once again. If you're new, then make sure to sub and let's go. Okay, so let's start off by talking about Invoker's changes in this patch. There's quite a lot, so we're going to break them down and we're going to talk through them each at a time. His innate ability, Mastermind, will give you 15% of any experience of lane creeps that you deny. This isn't going to be game changing, it's not going to put you way ahead of anybody else, but it is going to give you just that little bit extra. So whenever you see a creep that you can deny, you might as well do it, get yourself a little bit of extra XP. It's nice. Other than that, it's just a little bit of extra bonus XP. As for the facets though, Invoker is one of the only heroes that I've seen that both facets are very useful, and being able to pick between them on the, before each game and you kind of decide which fits better feels very nice. However, I have been playing a lot more of the Agnostic rather than the Elitist, and the way I see this is Agnostic is going to give you a lot more lane presence, going to be stronger earlier on. Then Elitist is going to give you a lot more spell damage, and you're going to scale quite a little bit better as well. And I mean, overall, you're going to be able to output a ton of spell damage later on as well. But the Agnostic one, let's talk about this first. Agnostic makes you a lot stronger in lane because Quas, Wex, and Exalt all give you passive effects all the time. Doesn't matter what orbs you have, but Quas is going to give you damage over time to your right clicks, and Exalt is going to give you bonus attack damage as well. Wex gives you bonus attack speed passively, so it's pretty nice, but overall, having that damage over time from Quas and the extra right clicks from Exalt as well is going to make you someone who can trade really well in lane. So I've been playing this one a lot. This is one I think I played 4 of these and 1 of Elitist, and winning lane and being active early on is kind of the way that I am playing right now and what makes Invoker seem super strong. However, Elitist has its own benefits too. You're going to get some flat lifesteal by using Quas active orbs. All of these have to be active, so whatever orb you're using is the benefit you're going to get. Wex is going to give you movement speed, but Exalt on Elitist is pretty crazy. The tooltip doesn't fully explain it, but you're still going to get spell amp just from having the orbs active. And then when you hit the target, you still get extra spell amp. It seems like here it's saying that if you attack someone, you get 4 seconds where it increases the spell amp, which feels like a nerf from the previous version, because if you had the Exalt orbs active, it was always there. But this is actually not the way it works. Having the orbs active will give you the spell amp, but then hitting them will give you an increased spell amp as well. You're going to be hitting a lot. You can hit 1200 damage Sunstrikes with the maxed out Elitist Exalt, which is crazy for late game. Obviously you have to get there, but it's pretty crazy. But the way I focus at the moment is on the Agnostic, and we'll talk about that soon. As for the rest of his abilities, Wex doesn't give cooldown reduction anymore, but all of his cooldowns have been reduced. So let's talk about the playstyle. So when should you pick each of these facets? Well, you would probably look at your lineup and decide on how you want to choose it. Both of them are good, both of them fit in, so you can just kind of pick whichever one you think suits the best for that game. As mentioned, Agnostic is going to give you early lane presence because of the damage over time and the extra right click that you get with the attack speed from Wex, the extra damage from Exalt, and of course the burn damage from Quas. This means that you can lane a lot better, get last hits easier, and harass the enemy a little bit easier too. I've actually noticed that heroes that I used to struggle against are a little bit easier now with Invoker because you have that extra harass in lane. So if you think you're going to struggle with lane a little bit, depending on your mid matchup, then you could pick this. And also if you want to be super active, you think your team's going to benefit from you being active early on, then this would probably be the way to go. However, if you look at your lineup and you see that your team has tons of setup for Sunstrikes like stuns, or you have a Void with Chronosphere, an Enigma with Black Hole, all this sort of stuff, Tide Hunter, then maybe consider Elitist. Elitist is going to give you a ton of spell damage from Exalt, but of course you have to get there before it becomes as valuable. Your lane presence is also not going to be as strong because of course you can cast increased spell damage spells. However, your mana pool isn't huge, and so It's not going to be something that you can do as often. And of course, not having the right click to be able to trade as easy is going to be something you'll notice. While Quas does give you some little lifesteal, the numbers on this aren't insanely huge. Like, you're not going to be out trading every single person that you hit just because you're getting 6 health back each time you hit them. Of course, about the bonus damage, your last hitting and stuff isn't going to be as easy as well. So chances are you're probably going to be spending a little bit more time farming and not being as active as using the agnostic thing. But if your team is lined up in a way that you're okay to go late game, you're okay to farm, your other team can like hold the early game for you a little bit, then this will pay off. Absolutely. The amount of damage you get from using Exalt with the spell amp, and then if you can even right click them as well and then throw things on top of them, you're going to be doing an insane amount of DPS in the late game. Like, an unbelievable difference. It's crazy. It's not even like you won't notice it. It's crazy. However, one thing to keep in mind is games are pretty short as of right now. Most of my games recently have been around 30 to 35 minutes, and this is why mostly so far I've been picking the agnostic facet, because it gives you that early game presence, which is super valuable. But again, both of these are good, just pick them depending on what you feel fits best. So my current playstyle with the agnostic facet is the one I'm going to focus on in this video, because I've played that 4 times and I've only played Letus once, and I felt a hell of a lot more powerful in the agnostic games. That being said, the build I like to go is go for 2 early braces, because you get super tanky and the stats are nice, you get extra right click damage as well, and you can just trade with people in lane with not really much worry whatsoever. Then I like to immediately go for power treads, keeping up the stat building and then the right click attack speed too. And then I follow that into an orchid. From here on out, you can pretty much build however you feel fits the game. Getting the orchid is super valuable though, because it gives you attack speed. It is also going to give you that silence so you can be active and go on people, because you'll get this earlier than most people will have anything to deal with it. And it also means that you can travel around lanes nice and easy and get on top of heroes without having to worry about them getting away if they have escapes. And of course, the damage from the orchid too is pretty nice. You can play pretty aggressively in lane, trading right clicks with the enemy as often as you can, as long as of course you feel like you're winning these trades. Make sure you have your forward spirit, use cold snap to as well. The Quas is going to proc this for you, and your trading is going to be really good in comparison to a lot of other mid heroes right now. Make sure to control runes so that they don't get tons of regen, especially if the enemy has a bottle as well. You're perfectly capable of TPing to lanes and ganking, and your Sunstrike still does a good amount of damage even without the spell amp, so keep an eye out for those all like you normally would. As soon as you get that orchid, you want to start moving around the map immediately. You want to, if you have to buy a smoke, but move around lanes, focus on the enemy carry, focus on the supports, anybody who's slightly squishy, and just be as active as possible. You are wanting to make tons of space for your core to be able to farm. Your POS 1 should be feeling like they can free farm at this point. Now, of course, all games aren't going to go this way. Sometimes your lanes may have lost on the side, but it's your job now to get into those lanes and be a presence and a worry for enemies so that they don't necessarily try tower diving your allies and all that sort of stuff. With an orchid around about like 10 to 12 minutes, along with treads, 2 braces, you're going to be doing a ton of damage, and you're going to be able to kill pretty much anybody in the game. So be as active as possible and shut down people and make them scared to farm in places that you may be able to jump on them. From here, I actually tend to think to myself, do I need a blink dagger or a BKB before I fall off? If the enemy has tons of stuns and control, then grabbing a BKB is always a good thing to do. You want to be able to get in the middle of fights and actually deal a lot of damage, use the orchid, and not be stood right at the back like kind of hoping to get the last hit. You want to be running at the enemy and fighting them. So having the BKB along with your orchid nice and early is going to give you a really good positioning for this. However, if you feel like you don't need a BKB because you're not being controlled a whole lot, then grab yourself a blink dagger, jump on people where you may not be able to normally reach them, and just get them killed off. Being able to be this aggressive early on is going to be huge for your team. It's going to create a lot of space, and it's definitely something that is going to be game changing. Then from here on out, you pretty much just want to build to whatever you feel like the game needs, because the early game is where you're going to shine, and then later on, hopefully you've made enough space for your core to be able to come online and kind of fight with you. Don't get me wrong, Invoker doesn't fall off. You're still going to be strong later, so make sure you build into something that keeps you useful for the game. For me, this is usually going to be a Hex or an Aghanim Scepter, something like this. But honestly, even if you think your team needs a 4-staff, an extra one or something, you could grab one of those. It's good stats. Just whatever you think fits the game style the best at that point. As for one item that I've actually not bothered with since the patch is going to be a Hand of Midas. I tried it in one game. I didn't feel like it was really worth it. I might as well have just gone for the Orchid straight away and been active sooner. Getting the Midas kind of just delays that, and while you are going to be farmed up later, it may be worth getting on the elitist facet. but on the agnostic, you are probably much better off just winning lane, getting the orchid, and going ahead and helping your team out. So while it is early days still, and I'm sure people will find different builds, and I'm sure I'll find different things to do with Invoker too once we've played a lot more games, this is how I've been playing recently, and it seems super strong and to have a lot of impact. So let me know what you think. What are you doing in the game with Invoker? What are your build styles? Are you playing the agnostic or are you playing elitist? And how do you feel they fit into each game? I'd be interested to know your comments because let's be honest, Invoker has a ton of different ways to be played and everybody has different play styles, which is why it's such a cool hero. If I had to theorize for the elitist facet, I would probably say going something like a Midas if you are farming well is probably pretty good, but still getting an early orchid could be nice, and then maybe moving to something like an Octarine core, Aghanim Scepter, grabbing yourself a blink so you can deal with BKBs later as well is probably going to be huge, considering the fact that you have such high spell damage. Blinking on someone and hexing them and then using the Meteor Blast, Cold Snap, all that sort of stuff, you're going to do a ton of damage. You're going to do an absolute ton of damage, so it's definitely something I'm going to experiment with. But I just wanted to make this video to, one, get back into making content for this channel, and two, just to talk about what I've been doing in my experiences as of so far. But anyway, like I say, let me know yours and your experience and stuff in the comments. Other than that, make sure to sub, leave a like, and hopefully this video has helped you out, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.